I love it. And so it was all good. And I started the recording, by the way, because there's always bits and pieces in our conversation that our editors can find something and use it in different ways. And so I'm really excited about both of you being here today. So,
well, it's a pleasure for us. Thanks
we're
for
excited.
having us. Yeah.
Well, I don't think many people know what Bendable Body is. So why don't you start out by introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about what is a bendable body and why?
You were probably going to tag team this a bit, if that's okay. Like go back and forth, because we have really different communication styles and a different take on everything. And so that's a plus for everybody. You want to start? Or you want me to start?
Go.
You want me to start? Yeah, sure. So it's resistance stretching. Okay. And if you look up the forms of stretching, online, Wikipedia, whatever, you're not going to see it. It's been around for about 30 years. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Give or take
30 years. And it's actually the way animals stretch, the lions, right? But it's really not out in the mainstream. And so, I don't think I should get into resistance stretching just yet. That'll probably come in a moment. But our company, we started it together. We learned with a guy by the name of Bob Cooley, and he was the one who originally identified the way in which a muscle stretches and identified that you can stretch fascia directly. And John worked with him for 10 years, and me for much less. I mainly have worked with John. And we kind of went off on our own, like many people have who have studied with him, and started our own company. And that's Bendable Body. That's kind of what it is.
When did you start your company?
I think it was 2016, right?
2016.
But we've been doing this work. I mean, you've been doing it.
I got involved in 2005, and I've been doing this exclusively for about almost 18 years now.
Yeah.
What got you involved in it in the first place?
Well, a golf instructor at a public range. I went to, get a lesson for, a half hour. And I took a couple swings. I've been playing for 15 years. And the guy goes, "You got a pretty nice swing." And I turned around and I said, "I don't have a nice swing. I've been trying to break 90 for like 15 years. And he goes, okay, take a few more swings. Now he's going to really look at me, And after 2 or 3 more swings, he just said, "You're inflexible." Now, that was pretty sobering from a stranger. You know what I mean? I mean, it was a joke amongst friends growing up. Like, if we had $1 million at your feet, you definitely couldn't bend over and pick it up. And I bought stretching books 3 days in a row. And the third day, I bought Bob Cooley's stretching book.
Well, the first book you bought, which one was it?
Bob Anderson's A Complete Stretching Bible. It's this big, thick thing. And, it's traditional stretching. And it hurt. It didn't feel good. And I went back to the store the next day, bought a gentle stretching book. Breathe, but don't force anything. And I wasn't moving. I couldn't move. Next day, I get this resistance stretching book. And I got an immediate effect in the first set of hamstrings. And I was like, this is it. And I literally, from that day forward, I've been stretching 6 days a week for, 18 years now.
Where does stretching and resistance stretching fall into those of us that may be doing riding, swimming, rowing, and or mostly some sort of weight training?
Yeah. So it's technically an eccentric movement. So pretty much everything else that you would be doing that you just described, certainly weight training, is concentric, right? Start with a muscle long, you add a weight and you shorten it, right? If you need a visual, some people out there might, because, it's not fresh in your head, but, if you need to do a bicep curl, can you show them? You probably think they can see you a bit better.
Well, you start with the muscle long.
You add a weight.
Add a weight, the biceps long.
Right.
You add a weight at the end, and there's resistance.
And you're overcoming the weight. That's strength training.
So resistance stretching is you start in this position.
With the muscle short.
Short. And then you resist.
And then you overcome the resistance. I'm helping him.
Yeah, he's overcome. You resist.
So it's eccentric. It goes from short to long, whereas weight training, biking, swimming, all of that goes from long to short. And the thing about it is, with resistance stretching, you're accessing the fascia. And that's really what's key. That's key to strength. It's key to flexibility. It's key to alignment. It's key to all physiological health and actually emotional health. Like, it really goes the full gamut. But separate from that, it's energy efficient, which you're much better actually at talking about, weight training. Because I actually haven't done a lot of weight training in my life. I mean, other than sports, which is concentric, but John lifted weights for, your whole life.
Well, as a teenager for a couple of years, my early 20s for a couple of years, but the idea, every move we make, walking, doing, is a muscle contracting to move us. And that's wasting energy. It's expending energy, right? And the resistance stretching interfaces with the fascia and the muscle, but the fascia primarily. And the fascia creates energy with these moves, and it stores energy. Yeah. So you could do a 45-minute resistance stretching workout. NFL players have done it, Olympic gold medalists have done it, and people in their 80s have done it, 8-year-olds have done it. And at the end, you're ready to do something, like you're ready to go on the field, go on the court, you're ready to go for a 5-mile run. Because now you've got all this energy and you're better aligned, because the fascia holds us in these really weird shapes,
like
and
warp
twists,
positions.
And they hold the muscles captive. And you can think about it as like scar tissue is like really thick, and then that's the most unhealthy. But then there's just simple dense fascia that accumulates from repetition, from non-movement, from sitting. You can get dense fascia, traumas, thoughts, the whole 9 yards. But we're really just concerned with teaching you the resistance stretching, and then you got a tool in your toolbox to get stronger and faster all the time.
I think another way that we're thinking about it is, people have the idea that they need to do tennis, do cycling, do weight training to stay fit and toned. And we feel like you're really missing the boat, actually. It's a skewed equation. If you like to do that stuff, awesome, and you should do it, but it's like spending money. And the only way you're going to put money in the bank is if you to spend that money that you like, weight training, cycling, whatever, is if you address the fascia. So like when people come to us, because we get this question all the time, we're like, yeah, do all the stuff that you love to do, but know that it's going to end in injury if you don't stretch enough. And what's the amount you need? Yeah, resistance stretching, not traditional stretching.
So I've always said that exercise is overrated. We do too much of it, too frequently. And it sounds a little bit like just the resistance stretching can help you stay limber, toned, fit for the work you need to do in life, because ultimately motion is about doing whatever work we need to do in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Cooking, cleaning, walking, shopping, gardening, those sort of things. I mean, tennis too, and tennis too. But essentially tennis, I know when I played tennis, I used to play a lot, but then after a while, it was like I couldn't play anymore because it was either elbows or feet or fasciitis somewhere. And so, what we're doing things that aren't natural to humans to live a vibrant, healthy life. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think a lot of times, I think we both want to say something. Can I go first?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people keep on doing the thing, trying to get better. And that's actually not going to get you better. You're going to be able to play more tennis if you get a better body. And tennis isn't going to give you a better body. Stretching and changing the tissue on a cellular level is. And then you can play. And then the other part of it too is you actually become more in tune with your body because you're interfacing with a tissue that's getting totally dropped out. And you have an instinct about what's the right amount for you that you didn't have before. This is like a common thing that happens in the workout world. I love my workout, but I got injured. And so now I'll go to PT. Maybe that'll fix me and I can get back to it and stay in shape. It's the equation is clear, but yeah.
If you're good at something, and like when we start as teenagers or in 20s, we play tennis, we do pottery, we do anything, and you get better. and you get, and then you start to get, the arthritic hands, you start to get the sore shoulder. And then when you got all the experience, you don't have the body. It happens, we see it in sports all the time, right? So it's much more enjoyable with a better body. And the resistance stretching is like it restructures the fascia, it rehydrates the fascia, reconstitutes it. And it's because of the resistance and the repetitions.
I mean, John, you always say this is the only exercise that quantity actually does turn into quality.
Yeah.
Pretty much every other one you're going to overdo, and it's going to be a problem.
And then you hit it and you come down. So what type of, let's see, how does someone begin to move into this type of work?
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Please.
So I have a gentler approach. Okay. I'm a big fan of like, what's your bent? Because we have a lot of experience dealing with people, and people have a different acuity in terms of their body. Like one person can come and start stretching and it's like they don't know their hand from their foot. And so you kind of need to start with that person a little bit differently. And I would just say, let's pick a super simple stretch. Don't focus on what your symptom is. Don't focus on what your needs are. Let's just learn how to be in your body, do this simple stretch and resist. So that would be one approach. And we can give you a couple simple stretches. I mean, another approach, what would you say?
Well, the most important thing is to learn the technique because it's so simple. It's like, carnivore. Very simple, very simple, but not easy. It's like, you got like, a dozen things or less that, you can choose from in the animal world. And resistance stretching is just like, Sita came up with the 4 pillars of a stretch, the start position, the resistance, the movement with resistance, and then the return and release to the start. And that's really all it is.
People really mess it up though, because it's so different than traditional.
The direction of force, and then with the fascia, you don't feel anything.
Yeah, that's
so in traditional stretching, you go to the end range and you have that sensation, which by the way weakens your muscle and creates dense fascia because you're making micro tears in the muscle when you're doing end range poses, and then the body responds with the white blood cells, and then all of a sudden you got these tendons that don't move. And you know what I mean? So this reverses all that.
But you can't feel the fascia. That's the first problem.
So you can resist 100%, and you're giving everything you got, and you know what the target muscle is, and you're like, I don't feel anything.
Feel it. Where am I supposed to feel it?
And I'm like, you're right in it.
So there's that. And then the other problem is it's so different than traditional stretching. Like the hardest group that we have that comes to us are people that are super ingrained in yoga because they just are so accustomed to going to that end range. And so getting them to resist and focus on the beginning range, we almost never get to an end range, is really hard. And so we have to get people to like a blank slate starting point.
Right. So yoga, ballet and dance, where does, because I know where does, I'm assuming it can help all of us at every level, but I'm still, so can we, again, you mentioned you start from here or you start from here?
It's a nice stretch to learn right now, really simple for the shoulder.
Here, I'm going to give you room so they can see you. Get centered.
Okay, so I'll do my right shoulder. This will be the target muscle, and it goes back up into the neck. And I like a little skin. What's happening, so if we were to stretch this in the gym or learn how to stretch in gym class, we would pull the end range, right? And just keep pulling.
Right. We do this.
That's traditional. We don't do that.
Okay.
We bring the arm back, and it's going to go in the direction of behind us. It's going to go back. Grab the elbow. Grab your elbow. Now your elbow is pushing back, but your hand is going to overcome that force, and you're resisting.
Pulling to center.
Pulling to center, and then let it go.
So are you pulling your arm?
Am I pulling it?
Yes. You're pulling it.
The
And
arms
it should
push
feel pretty hard too.
You're pulling the hand against resistance. It's like you're trying to not let your arm move you.
I'm holding here.
Yep.
I'm trying to pull it this way.
Yes. And then you're pulling against that resistive force. And try and just let the arm move in the shoulder joint. Try and keep your torso square, right? So the movement's just happening in the shoulder joint, Dr. Kiltz. So yeah, the whole time that helping arm should be working pretty hard. That's strength training, the helper, right? And so
let it go.
The stretch is over when you're not resisting.
Don't resist going back.
Okay.
Just start resisting here and pull, but your elbow and your shoulders resisting the movement.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're pulling. You're doing it. It looks like you're struggling to do it.
And then let it go. See how it's like it takes your breath away?
Oh, yeah. You feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's direct
and here.
Oh, yeah, right?
Do a couple more so you can feel the result.
Let's do 4 or 5 more.
And everybody out there, do them too, because you want to feel the result.
And
so your start position is wherever this helper can comfortably reach across the body. So where is that for you?
So if it's here or here, I can do it here, and I'm pushing back with this, but I'm pulling this way.
It's like a tug of war, and the helper wins. And so that force. Now check it out.
Whoa, check it out.
Check it out. Compare the arms, like
the shoulders.
I feel it here. Look, this moves better.
Yeah,
right. In the joint. So one thing you can do before you start, go like this with your arms, and notice how the arm you just stretched goes further back. Can you feel that you have? So that is a change in flexibility. Flexibility, it's right in the word. The muscle gets shorter. It flexes. That's an increase in flexibility.
Okay, so, and obviously there's an exercise for each joint and muscle.
You got 8 in the upper body every direction, and 8 in the lower body every direction. So you're covering all the major muscles,
all the kinematic patterns.
And there's something really cool about these muscle groups. So the muscle group you just stretched and I just stretched, that runs along the large intestine meridian, and that will improve the health of your large intestine and everything that goes with it. High and low blood pressure, elimination, blood flow returning to the heart. That's what the large intestine is in charge of. So if you have any of that, you want to do these stretches.
And also, like if you're someone who gets acupuncture, you go and get acupuncture after you stretch and you're more receptive. Like, have you ever noticed they never needle the back of the body? They almost never do.
Right.
Because that's where all the dense fascia is, and they can't get a result. So they always put it on the front of the body, which is more gushy, doesn't have so much accumulation, because they can
That's why they can do acupuncture sitting in a chair or a lounge, because it's always in the front, never in the back.
Right.
So
but if a person were to stretch, go get it, they would get a result in the back meridians. Because you've changed that tissue, the meridian channel's open. So he wants to do the other side.
You go from one side to the other. Now, once I'm done here, do I just relax it back, or do I don't need to resist it back? Just let it go back.
The strength movements versus the stretch movements with resistance both ways. The strength movements fatigue the muscle very quickly.
Yeah.
And when you fatigue a muscle, that takes 3 times, the recovery time. It's really, really, you don't want to do that.
Now there are instances where we absolutely use strength, but it's like
a very judicious use of strength.
Like 5% of the time.
Oh, 1%. And just to get a little better resistance in some people. Not everyone needs it. Some people can resist right off the bat.
Because you're actually, with these movements, you're increasing your strength because the muscle's engaged, right? So what happens is, as soon as you start with the muscle in a short position, which you just did, the fibers go into one another, right? The muscle's contracted, it's shortened. All those fibers go like arrows, they go into one another. Now the fascia is wrapped around every muscle fiber, right? It's interpenetrating. It's not just wrapped around the muscle, it penetrates inside. So it's grabbed, right? And then when you resist the lengthening, this happens. And it like perpendicular,
And it
and
shears
there's a
off.
sloughing off, a shear. It's like getting a facial internally. It's a subtractive technology. So that dry, hard fascia literally leaves.
What are the resources that people can go to in order to learn more about this, in order to begin the journey of
So we are totally online right now. We used to be totally in person. We're totally online. So we have a website, super easy, bendablebody.com. Jake's got it in, the post. We've also put up there a free training where people can like try it out for free. So you can do that. We have a YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and everything is Bendable Body.
And are there books that you'd recommend for people to research this more?
Totally. The Genius of Flexibility by Bob Cooley. That's the book I bought to start my journey on the resistance stretching.
Any other components that go along with this? Obviously in yoga, there's mindfulness, there's breath, there's shavasana. Any other components that go along with this?
Well,
Exercise? Do we call it an exercise? No, what?
It's a complete exercise.
Okay.
I want to mention about the strength part. Major universities, and I've seen 3 studies done on these actively loaded eccentric resistant movements is what they kind of call them, right? These kinesiologists or physical therapists do these studies, these movements that we're showing you versus traditional strength movements. And across the board, 15 to 20% more strength happens with resistance stretching than with weightlifting. And we've seen, I've worked with athletes for years, young swimmers, old swimmers,
NFL.
football, all the sports. And I had an NFL guy say after 6 months of doing this, he said, "John, I'll never lift another weight again."
Wow. Is there equipment required for this?
No.
No, it's applied in 2 ways. Self-stretching, which is what you just did, and then assisted stretching. That's like when you come and we stretch you. So 2 very different things, but it's the same method, same movements. When you get assisted, you can add rotation and you can keep the joints very stable. So it's easier to change scar tissue, for example, with assistance. But self-stretching is really effective. And that's what we teach online.
I would imagine this is good to have as a couple, 2 people together.
Sure.
Doing this.
Sure.
One learning to help the other. Is that?
Oh, absolutely. Assisted stretching. That's how I started self-stretching from the book, but I got involved. I knew I was going to do this for the rest of my life somehow, some way. And I love the assisted stretching. I jumped right in. Within a year, I was in Europe training top tennis players, and I was at Olympic trials. I was in Florida, California, and I traveled a lot and, worked with these athletes. And, it's even now we work with people online and they're 75, 80, they're 65, and they're like, I can do this and I haven't been able to do it in 30 years. I can do this and I haven't been, I can stand up in a canoe. And I've never been able to stand up in a canoe my whole life. Now I'm 65 and I can stand up in a canoe and I can swim upstream.
The other thing about it too, is there's a very even playing field. So whether you're 8 or 25 or 85, you're kind of doing the same stretches. Really, the only thing that sometimes sets people apart is if someone has an injury, it's hard for them to get down on the ground. So they would need to do more standing stretches, but it's not like the standing stretches are less effective. It's a thing that's going on internally. What are you bringing internally? And so that is where the effectiveness comes. But in terms of, couples, stretching someone else, it takes a lot of skill and there's a ton of force. Like you felt the force just on your own. Now imagine if you had someone pulling for you and you could resist more. There's a lot of force there.
Right. There's a tendency maybe to sort of give a little bit and
yeah.
You kind of have to.
You should. If you resisted maximally in certain muscle groups, you wouldn't be able to move yourself. You know,
I do want to mention, you mentioned breathing or what accompanies this. So these different muscle groups in the body, you know, they're different. The hamstrings on the back versus the muscles on the front of the leg. You know, the front of the leg is like the psoas major, the quads, you know, they're like very pliable muscles. The hamstrings, they're like strings, and they're designed that way to support and make us erect and help the pelvis extend and flex. So when you're doing stretches for different parts of the body, they're going to produce a different breathing pattern.
Yeah.
And so now I know a lot of exercise people, and I've done this. You create a pattern of breathing. You exhale on the exertion, you inhale on the return, you exhale on the exertion. And I think you lose a lot when you do that, because if you're doing some tough tissue on the back of the body, the back of the shoulders or the legs, you got to stay with the resistance. Because if you're breathing your way through, are you resisting the tissue or are you breathing? Are you resisting the tissue or are you listening to soft music in the background? Are you so what are you doing when you're doing this? You know what I mean? You can learn a lot about your body and get beyond the pain very kind of quickly. And all of a sudden, then you find all these asymmetries you had no idea you had. And you just keep knocking one out, the other out all the time.
Yeah, we usually say, let your body breathe you. The one thing we do encourage is nose breathing versus mouth breathing. That's really kind of the only big instruction on breathing that we give. You know, one thing, I don't know if you had another question, but I just want to make sure that
please. I want to make sure we get all of your comments and important things that I may not have asked.
Well, you know, one of the reasons that we were so excited to come on your podcast is the carnivore lifestyle, because carnivore is going against the grain. It's like taking everything that is believed and it's like the land of opposites. And that's what we're doing. Like, we're like, breathe through your nose, breathe less, you know, don't strength train so much, resist the movement, focus on the fascia, don't go into end range stretching. It's a very like opposite what the majority are doing and thinking about how the body works. And, you know, just as well as we do, that this other stuff isn't working. It didn't work, you know? And so why aren't we considering something else? And, you know, when it comes to resistance stretching, we're like, how has this not been figured out? How is nobody doing this? It's how the animals stretch, right? And so we felt like the carnivore world is going to be like, oh, ding, 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 ding. These are people that are doing something that nobody else is doing. And I maybe need to pay attention because they're already paying attention. Do you know what I mean?
What other aspects of people's lives do you think are important to also incorporate
food
into this?
Food. I mean, it's huge. I mean, John and I have been on a food journey from the beginning, you know, first organic. I mean,
well, you know, do what you want to do. And I see, like, people enjoy tennis, weightlifting, and they want to get back in the game. You know, they really do. You know, singles tennis turns into doubles tennis, and then turns into ping pong, and then, so we want to get you back on the court, back running. Sprinting is a great thing to do. Jogging, I'm not a big fan of, because it's really hard on the joints. If you sprint, it's much better on the joints because you're running fast.
And shorter duration.
Shorter duration, yeah. You just don't want to you don't want to exceed your aerobic capacity or your biomechanical capacity.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
People overspend. That's what we call it. They spend more money than they have.
I call it the body bank. You know, if you had a choice to do an exercise that made your body stronger, faster, more energy, improved all your organs, like your immune system if you wanted to, or your bladder, or, you know, anything, versus you could do an exercise that made you tired, exhausted, and took you out of anatomical position, you know, arms turning in, legs turning out, pelvis flexing forward. It's an obvious choice.
What can we do one or two more movements just
Yeah.
so we can give
Yeah.
a little bit more knowledge?
I think you should.
Well, let's stay on the back of the,
small intestine.
yeah, so we just did large intestine.
Okay.
Let's go on the back of the shoulders again and do small intestine by pressing the hands together, elbows wide,
Get centered.
elbows wide, and then really press those palms together with what you got. Retract the shoulders on the back of your body. Keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that while you draw the elbows together.
So the resistance
then
is
let it
pressing the
go.
hands together. You're generating resistance by pressing your hands together.
Let it go and go back out to the start. Press the hands together, press the hands together, press the hands together, and keep the elbows shoulder height as you draw them together, and then let it go.
It's
And
okay if
breathe
you hold
through the nose.
That's the best.
Well, let your body breathe you. If you breathe in and out, in and out, in and out, or if you hold your breath because the tissue's determining the breath, let it happen. Resist, press those hands together, and then let it go on the way out. Let it go. So in the back of the body, the back of the shoulders have some pretty tough tissue.
Just a couple more.
Yeah, let's do two more.
This stretch in particular helps with being able to look up. Allows you to look up a little easier.
And you said this is the small intestines.
Small intestine. Now feel you see how your chest opened up, Tom?
Right here. Yep.
Yeah. Because the muscles on the back of the body can shorten now. We just stretch the muscle on the back of the body so they can shorten, and that opens up the front. Because when people get older, do they walk around like, oh, I hate getting old? Or do they walk
yes.
around like
Right. It's either like this or like this.
Well, no, it's always forward.
they don't usually walk around like this.
Oh, got it.
All right. Because the back of the body, the fascia gets denser and denser and denser, and it won't shorten. See, everyone thinks I'm not flexible, my muscles won't lengthen.
Like I can't do the splits.
That's the equation that really almost doesn't matter, but it's part of the equation. You're inflexible because your muscles won't contract and shorten.
I just saw it was about hamstrings, right? And loosening your hamstrings. And they had like 3 images of someone doing a forward bend. Because we think that's how I test my hamstring flexibility. That tells you about your hip flexors. That doesn't tell you anything really about your hamstrings.
Okay.
If you want to know about your hamstrings, you kick your heel up toward your butt. Show them. You should show them.
Can you see here?
Yes.
Okay. So if I go to touch my toes,
Yes.
the limiting factor is the front of the body contracting and shortening.
Not the hamstrings.
We do this in our courses where, we stretch one leg in the front. First, we check in and see where we are. And then we stretch one leg on the front, all the muscles, hip flexors, quads, kidney, pectineus here. And then you bend over again. And all of a sudden, that leg that you stretched, that arm goes down further. Now, if you want to know hamstring flexibility, it's kind of like this and that.
That's the action of the muscle. That's what the muscle does. See, flexibility isn't a muscle getting long, it's a muscle working better.
And so what's the action of the muscle? Well, the hamstrings do those movements. The hip flexors fold the front of the body. You want them to work better, to do their action better. And that is flexibility. And it goes hand in hand with strength. So this idea that it's a lengthening is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They only lengthen when the muscle on the other side of the body shortens.
Okay.
And then the muscle, the way it works is an impulse. I want to reach above and grab something out of the cabinet. Well, my traps and shoulders here have to contract and shorten. And this is a really tight muscle in people. So what happens is they don't. So we get really big internal rotation, and then our ribs are sticking out because we lose that.
One of the hardest things to do is take your shirt off.
Oh my
Sure.
God.
Sure.
And it's I don't know. Has it always been that way, or has it just seemed like it's getting harder over time?
You're asking both of your arms as they go up to shorten and externally rotate. The holy grail are the arms externally rotating. Think of Roger Federer or Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And like they were genetically born that way. Okay. We can get going in that direction. And then the other one is the internal rotation of the thighs.
Okay.
Up high, not down low at the knees, because that's substitution for a lack of internal rotation here. And the pelvis wants to extend when you stand. And then when you sit, it wants to flex.
And it does the opposite.
It usually does the opposite in Western cultures.
And that's the hamstrings. That's the hamstrings.
But they're not going to change by doing a forward bend. Traditional stretching stretches out the end points of the muscle and then the ligaments and the tendons. That's what it stretches out. And you don't want those stretched out. That's hypermobility. They should have a tautness to them. It's worse in women. It happens, because the guys are tighter by nature, so they don't ruin themselves quite so quickly. But you want to get to the belly of the muscle and change the fascia. So our job, which is why we like groups like Carnivore, is getting people to understand. It's not getting a change. It's like completely redefining flexibility and, this whole thing. And so, when people are already thinking outside the box, it's an easier change to make.
And
we need to make some major changes. And we need to make some major changes in order to turn the clock back and allow us to become more youthful as we add the numbers to our years.
And not prematurely age.
So there's
premature. Go ahead, John.
Everybody.
If we ask a question to ourselves, are we getting faster and stronger all the time? Or are we getting weaker, slower, and more pain? Do you know what I mean? And if you don't know the answer, that's fine. But we know the answer for you. You can actually get faster and stronger into your 50s, 60s, and 70s. That's if you dive in. There's people who do it for maintenance. There's people who do it for therapy. They have really bad shoulders, bad hips, knees. And so they just want that pain to go away. And so the remedy is more resistance, believe it or not. I mean, you would think, do it gentle. No. Do it at 110% and do short range. Because if you got in your spine, the spine's a problem for people, spondylolisthesis and compression in the spine, twisting. Imagine 1/32 of an inch between 10 of your vertebrae. You would have no pain, right? Just that little space. So if you resist and maximally, and you just move it a tiny bit, you're going to change the fascia. And then there's no pain when you do this movement.
See, people, so the idea is, the skeleton is held in a dysfunctional position. You go get a chiropractic adjustment, whatever. The fascia is stronger. It's going to pull you right back to where you were. It has to be the thing you change.
You could do this anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime.
Yeah.
And you can learn all of this by going to bendablebody.com and signing up for individual lessons, group lessons, whatever it is, or watching also YouTube.
Yeah, so we have lots of free resources.
So on the YouTube channel, we have 50 videos, mostly hamstrings. That's the deal. You want to change those hamstrings.
Well, but then we have over 45 blog posts that all have videos in them about, different ailments and whatnot.
Plantar fasciitis, anxiety, back pain, shoulder pain.
We also have, we post all the time on social media.
Hands.
Yep, we have hand stuff. Absolutely. Fingers, totally. I mean, you kind of want to change the bigger muscles, but we do. We've got them. And then we obviously have paid things. We teach regular live Zoom classes. We have a membership site with over 200 videos on it. And then, you can do private stuff online or in person. But there's a lot of free resources for people to get started.
And you don't have to have the flexibility to start. You don't have to be able to balance and do this.
No.
We
and
don't
you don't
want to balance.
Yeah, no, like even when doing hamstrings or standing or on one, we're recommending you hold on to the wall or the chair, because if you're working on keeping your balance, you lose resistance.
It's all about the
It's
resistance.
about the resistance. It's just about the resistance, staying in the resistance, changing that tissue.
One question I have, do people even know what fascia is? I mean, you obviously do, you're a doctor, but a lot of people don't even know what it is.
I think most people don't even really know what the skeleton and muscle and what's it really doing and how's is it really working.
Right.
That's part of the interesting part to understand the anatomy, the neurovascular bundles, and that the muscles and tendons are connected to the bone, but there's that fascial connections. And I imagine, and maybe I'm not the best at this either. I'm not an exercise physiologist. I haven't spent years training to understand this, but ultimately each muscle fiber must be connected to something in order to do its work.
Totally. And it's the fascia. Yeah. I mean,
And-
it's the tissue people don't know about.
See, we don't feel it. Like, it's not like, hey, doc, my fascia's killing me. It's like my knee hurts, my muscle's sore.
It's a tendon problem.
And the funny thing is about,
Yeah. Yes. What did you say, Dr. Kiltz?
Tendinitis.
Yeah,
That's, I mean, the bone on bone tendinitis, back issues with cartilage is a big thing, and inflammation. So if you combine carnivore, keto, fasting in some way with these types of practices, it's an exercise which you could do it anywhere, and you'll build I want to use the word flexibility, but it's strength and improve your capabilities in the things that you desire to do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And of course, the combination is going to certainly reduce inflammation. I think that was
exercise creates inflammation, and this reduces
it. It stores a negative charge in the body, a negative ionic charge. I mean, it's kind of remarkable that way.
The movements produce ionic charge. It's really cool. And the fascia is interesting. It has 5 times as many nerve endings as the nervous system. It communicates 10 times faster than the nervous system. It connects everything together. And if the bones and the muscles and the skin and everything, they're the puppets, and the connective tissue and the fascia are controlling everything.
But yet we don't feel it.
We don't feel it.
We don't even know it's there. And so, I mean, that was kind of, you were saying, is there anything else important in, that connects with this? It's food. And, what I've noticed about the carnivore diet is that you don't do it. Maybe there are people out there that do, but I haven't seen anyone that does it unless you're desperate, unless you're at a point where you are willing to take some pretty extreme measures. And, from the very beginning, this work has gone hand in hand with diet for us. We've done the lectin-free thing. We've been organic the whole time. We've done the no sugar thing. We've done veganism. I mean, we've literally done everything. And it's this constant search for what really works, what helps get the tissue healthier.
And most people aren't capable, I think, physically and maybe mentally either, but I think the physicality of the body in exercise is not sustainable.
No.
The
You get
majority of
injured.
people, everyone does.
Absolutely.
And unless you have a really, really dedicated mission, no matter what, to push through the pain, but that's probably not good for us either. So what we're saying is we want to do the work that keeps us in the work of life.
Absolutely. You're the only person that's ever zeroed in on that. And we say it ad nauseum, like in all of our marketing material. Like, what do you like to do? Do you like to sit and knit? Do you want to be able to go and get groceries easily? Do you want to go on road trips? Do you like to read? Do you like to play tennis? Whatever it is you like to do, it's a physical activity, and you need a body to do it. And this is going to give it to you.
You want to be able to get up out of bed every day, get out of the
Getting
chair,
out of
get off the couch and go participate in life. If it's
Yes.
going to church, the market, your friends, a gathering, a get together, a meetup, or just turning on Carnivore Conversations with Kiltz and John and Sita, Bendable Bodies. That's where we want to go.
Yeah.
I
We
just
wanna be
finished
inspired.
a 3-day fast today, by the way.
What's that?
I just finished a 3-day fast today.
I did my 2-day fast this week. I was in the operating room the next day, and I knew I've got to be careful if I'm in the operating room operating on you or anyone else if I hit the wall. But the 3-day fast, I'm good at 2 days. I'm still working on my 3 days a little bit more.
I've
But
done
I
it
think-
twice last month, this month, and you can totally tell the food is like fogging the mind.
I do my 3-day fast once a month. I don't always do it the first week, but I do it. And the 2-day fast once a week. And I'm pretty good at that. And my 23-and-1, that's what I'm really good at. And I think consistency, 6 or 7 days. I mean, this sounds like something people could do every day, but what's your general recommendations of daily habits?
So again, do what you will do. I mean, if you do it once a week, that's all you're going to do. You're going to get benefit.
Yeah.
You could do it 3 times a week, better. If you could do it 5, like, so our program, our online program is set up for 5 times a week, but we know that you might not, and that's fine. You know, we also set it up for people to spend 15 minutes a day because we know that that's what they're willing to do, but it'd be great if you spent 30.
You know, we have longer videos. You know, once you start doing this, you're going to want to do more and more and more. I know maybe for you, the fasting, I think 23-and-1 is like a fast, basically. And that's harder for me than a 3-day fast. I can do a 3-day fast, but 23-and-1 is hard.
Wow.
So we're both doing it in different ways.
Yep.
So I love doing my hamstrings just about every day, at least a couple sets. It's what we do is the framework. I think the weightlifters have the right outline for exercise. They're doing the wrong exercise. You know what I mean? Because has anybody weightlifted their way to a 100-yard dash gold medal? Has anybody weightlifted their way to the NFL? You know, these are bodies that were born that way, that were genetically endowed. And the people that can lift weights into their 20s and 30s a lot, you know, they had the rotations at the shoulders to do that. You know, the sports world eliminates us through grade school, high school, college. You know, everyone just like, I mean, if I was better, had a better body, I would have kept playing soccer. I would have kept wrestling. But it just, you can see that some of these kids just have better bodies. But now everybody can get the better body with resistance stretching, and, you know, really levels the playing field. And we just want to feel better. This makes you feel good.
Another great way to stretch. I mean, a lot of people need like a routine to get started, you know, like, okay, I'm going to do my thing. But as you get into it more and you like learn the stretches and you just know them and you're a little bit more familiar, you can pepper it throughout your day. You know, so like you know, like if you're standing doing surgery for 35, 45 minutes, whatever it is, and then afterwards your back hurts or whatever, you do, you know, a set of hamstring stretches. Just like you would drink a glass of water.
Here.
We got to show you a hamstring stretch.
Yeah.
We got to show you a hamstring stretch.
Right.
So the back of the leg, in order to stretch it here, I'm going to do this right here. You always want to bend in your knee if you're using your heel as resistance. So what you do is you pull your heel back, like it wants to go that way, but it's going to stop into the yoga mat and the floor. So now this is all engaged and resisting. Keep that resistance while you fold forward and then let it go and then stand up again. So pull that heel back, pull that heel back, pull that heel back continuously, and then let it go on the way up.
And it's not a big range.
So the range only as long as you can resist. If you can keep firing that heel or resisting with your elbow and your shoulder, you can go further. But at one point, it's going to go into the joint. You'll feel it, or you'll feel the resistance start to wane. You know what I mean? The resistance start to wane, and then the stretch is over.
A little bit of something is always better than all of nothing,
Totally.
or always all of something,
Totally.
because it's just, you can overdo it, but small increments of this will bring on a consistent schedule can bring big
Oh yeah.
value.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You just got to get started. And whatever that means for the individual, we're fine with. You know, we often tell people, do the stretches you like. There's 16 muscle groups. Just do the ones you like. Don't do the ones you don't like.
Then you get to learn how to do them.
And then you learn how to do it. You know, no big deal. The three stretches that we've given you today are a really great starting point.
I'm already working on them. I like every one of them. It'll get ready for my snowboarding in March.
Oh yeah, get
So
to
they
do
just
those
know, right?
hamstrings. Your so real
Also,
quick
the
on the
IT
hamstring.
band would be really good.
Hold on, on that hamstring, I'll give you the front view. Lower. Okay, so the foot straight ahead is the central hamstring. To turn the foot out is your lateral hamstring. So the lateral hamstring is the bladder. Central hamstring is the brain. Turn your foot in. The medial hamstring is pancreas. So I think of it, my three sons. So you do a size of like 6 or 10 here, 6 or 10 here, 6 or 10 here.
Just make sure you resist, Dr.
Yeah,
Kiltz.
just resist.
So as I'm pushing my heel to the mat, I'm also tightening my hamstring.
Hamstring
That
back.
tightens your hamstring.
Yep.
And you might not feel it internally. You could put your hand on your hamstring and you'll feel it tighten.
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great technique. You know, because the fascia back there is really dense. So there's not a lot of sensation and there's a lot of force.
So the fascia, it envelops all of the muscle fibers.
It does. It goes into bones.
Well, because the muscle fibers are not very, each individual group of fibers not long, and they all connect to many others through fascial connections.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, they kind of look like the little things in an orange.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're all connected. And so they're all shortening and they're all resting. Shortening and resting.
They
Ideally,
also twist and turn.
They produce rotations.
Which is really important.
Now that you mention it, if you eat a lot of sugar, first of all, that's going to eat away at the muscle. And so the body, the immune system reacts to every stimuli. And so if it's bad food and the sugar weakens the muscle or eats away at your muscle, the immune system, the white blood cells, they go down to that area and they patch it up. So now you're basically putting cement in your muscles.
Mm-hmm.
It's also through repetitive motion and things like that, but the food can do it too.
So, you know, if a muscle is supposed to, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The number of neurovascular bundles that go to every single muscle fiber in your body is critical. And so 99% of our vessels are micro vessels, not the large vessels. And so that sugar damages the vessels and also damages the nerve fibers. And that's also going to harm your ability to move those muscles or relax your muscles.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're thinking about it, of course, from the tissue standpoint, but there's that whole level as well.
Well, which feeds the tissue. Yeah. Without the oxygen and the nutrients that are delivered to the muscles, because muscles don't make fat. It comes from other places, and it's delivered to the muscle, the acetyl-CoA, to make that, to deliver the ATP also is very critical in that. So I really is so excited to hear this story, which is a little bit bending my brain because it's so opposite. As you said, it's like this carnivore conversations. Like who would believe that eating fatty meat and eating like a lion is healthy for us?
Totally. I know. So it's like, try explaining to people, don't go into the splits. You can only get into a flexible position that you can pull yourself out of with those exact same muscles producing strength. So like, you know,
so like flexibility versus range of motion. If a young gymnast can split and, you know, put her body on the floor and her legs are out this way. Well, if she's truly flexible, she should be able to like bring her legs together and get out of it. But
Using her inner thighs.
using her inner thighs, but they always use their arms to get out of it. So they're overstretched and they're injured and they have hip injuries.
It's not real flexibility. It's a
So
false
it's a false range of
motion.
motion. We all have it and we all use it, but we eliminate that.
Are you doing any in-person coaching work?
Just started. We moved from New York City, October 2020 down to Asheville. We were in Brooklyn, Manhattan for 7 years. And before that we were in DC, and our work was totally one-on-one and trainings. Everything was in person. And then we created, before COVID, it was very fortuitous, we created a membership site. And so we were able to transition really nicely. And we've really just been taking a break and had stuff going on, as
For
you know.
obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. And so now we've only just put in person back online. And so people are invited to come for retreats, and we can do intensives on you. And then we're going to start, doing courses in person as well.
Well, again, this has been such a joy to listen and learn and do a little resistance work.
Dr. Kiltz, I'm going to give you access to the membership for a few months so you can give it a try and play around. I'll send it in an email.
I would love that. And we're going to link your website to our Carnivore Conversations and share much more out there. So thank you so much for being a part of the conversations and sharing your expertise, knowledge, and your enthusiasm for healing.
Thank you, Dr. Kiltz.
It was an honor.
Really, we've learned a whole new world from you. I'm loving Against the Grain with James C. Scott. Incredible book. People should read about our history and what really nourishes us.
Absolutely. And we're nourished by we're nourished by humans nourishing other humans. It's the giving. Yeah. That's so incredibly important, because we don't do this alone. And the COVID's been hard for so many people, but I think it's brought so much to us because of social media, which I call social medicine, that we can touch so many more people than you can ever touch in person, 9 to 5 or whatever those hours are.
Totally. Absolutely.
Really true. It really is. It's had its upsides.
Yeah. And honestly, John and I are both really aware you're so generous that way online. It really comes across. You're not holding back.
I really enjoy it. And I've learned as a physician, and you as other healthcare practitioners, essentially, we are, that we went in this profession to help people. And it feels so good when people get, and you see get the benefits and you see the stories. It's incredible.
It's huge. It's everything.
Yeah. That's the reason we're in it.
Well, let's keep sharing. We'll do this again on all sides.
You're coming to talk to our members you're coming to talk to our members on the 8th. So we get to see you again soon.
All right. I look forward to it. And again, we got to throw the questions all around. I'm really working on salt this week. I'm learning so much about salt I didn't know about. And we need more salt. And your body excretes excessive salt, but it holds on to excessive sugars. That's our problem.
Do you know about Dr. Batman Gelich, his book, The Iranian Doctor? We're not sick, we're thirsty. He's got a salt water protocol.
Yeah, we went through phase.
What's that?
We went through a drinking salt water phase.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we came out of a saltwater environment. That's where we evolved out of. And but this is a kind of an interesting new area for me because, I use salt. I recommend salt, but I don't think I really understood the benefits of the salt. So send me a message, would you, on that book and that connection? I'd love that.
Celtic. It's got to be Celtic.
Or some.
That's got all the minerals.
Natural salt,
Well, Redmond's, Himalayan, what you have.
I mean, they're all good, but we've heard the Celtic's the best.
Got it.
It has a couple more minerals than the others.
Obviously Himalayan and Redmond's is going to be better than table salt by a long shot. But, of the mineralized ones, Celtic.
I'll look at it. I love Malden salt. That's the one I love, the flakiness, but
Yeah.
I'm open to all of them. You know, I do a lot of organ meats, and I think that's good, but you know, it really is steak, salt, water, and enjoy life.
John's been eating raw liver daily.
Every day, 2 ounces.
I can't do it.
Great. Have you tried
Great,
duck liver
Matt.
yet? Duck liver?
Beef liver and pork liver.
Try duck. It's amazing.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's amazing.
Looking forward to it. That sounds good. Tastes
All
like
right.
liverwurst.
It is essentially, right? Again, all of this is old, but my intuition is that what you're teaching is ancient.
I think
We
so.
feel like at
yeah.
some point they must have known this in Chinese medicine. It's 5,000 years old. I mean, they took an energetic focus with the meridian channels, but they had to have known this.
Yeah.
Somebody's known it.
They had, like, it's watch an animal stretch. This is what they do. And they do it 30, 40 times a day. We never do it.
Our true ancestors are all the animals.
Yeah,
We
totally.
have to recognize that. We all evolved together, and they're all ancestors for us.
It's true.
It's true.
All right. Love you. Thank you.
Thanks,
God
Dr.
You
Kiltz.
too,
Have a
Doctor.
great
Thanks.
night. See
All right.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
bless. Bye.
Bye.